Yes, Your Honor, I stand before you today. Sorry. Somewhat confused.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 times athletes ruined their own careers.
It looked as if Tyson bared his teeth at one stage in the exchange.
Yes,
bit his ear.
He bit his ear. That's what Holyfield was in a lot of pain from that.
Number 20, Ryan Lochte. While Michael Phelps was getting all the attention for his dominance, Ryan Lochte was right behind him, carving out his own legacy. But then the 2016 Summer Olympics happened in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Lochte, along with 3 other members of the USA swimming team, announced they had been robbed.
Police say the swimmers kicked down the door, then vandalized the bathroom inside. Then those 4 swimmers continued down here back towards their taxi, and at this point, they allegedly ripped a poster off the wall before being confronted by those security guards.
However, inconsistencies in Lochte's story soon emerged. In the end, it turned out he had lied. They'd actually gotten drunk and vandalized the bathroom at a gas station.
The first version of the story you told, Ryan, was much more about the mean streets of Rio.
Yeah.
And the version we're hearing now is much more about a negotiated settlement to cover up some dumb behavior.
And that's why I'm taking full responsibility for it.
Afterward, they were confronted to pay for the destruction. Lochte was barred from competing for 10 months, and he was dropped by sponsors, while the other athletes received a 4-month suspension. This incident, plus a doping scandal in 2018, resulted in Lochte struggling to return to his former glory.
I take full responsibility. I'm human. I made a mistake, a very big mistake, and it's something that I learned from, and I know that that will never happen again.
Number 19, Todd Bertuzzi.
Todd Bertuzzi after Steve Moore. Grabs his shoulder, having a little chat with him, grabs his sweater, gives him a whack, and piling on is Andre Nicolition, and everybody's into it. Now we get a line brawl.
Tensions were high when the Vancouver Canucks faced off against the Colorado Avalanche on March 8, 2004. The Canucks targeted Avs player Steve Moore for a questionable hit on their captain Marcus Naslund that went unpenalized the previous game. In the third period, Canucks forward Todd Bertuzzi sucker punched Moore and pushed him to the ice, and a bench-clearing brawl erupted. Moore was left seriously injured with 3 fractured vertebrae and a concussion. The injuries were so severe that Moore would never play again.
And he wanted to send him a message, but I don't think this is the message Bertuzzi wanted to send him.
Although Bertuzzi would return to the game after multiple court hearings, suspensions, and fines, any attempt at a comeback was simply out of reach.
Steve, I just want to apologize for what happened out there. That I had no intention on hurting you, and I feel awful for it.
His production decreased, he bounced around different teams and was constantly booed and heckled by opposing teams' fans. Things were never the same for Bertuzzi after this ugly incident. Number 18, Greg Hardy.
Crack 'em. Hogwarts.
Hardy was living the dream as a Carolina Panthers defensive end, receiving praise from all sides of the NFL for his amazing work. But during the offseason in 2014, the wheels came off his rise to stardom when he was accused of assaulting his then-girlfriend. Hardy was initially found guilty of assault, but the case was ultimately dismissed on appeal because his former partner largely went quiet. Needless to say, people were far from happy that he was still in the league following this.
Just when I begin to think the Cowboys can't possibly sink any lower, they can't fall from grace any more than they have, they find another shovel and dig a few feet deeper.
After attempting a football comeback with the Dallas Cowboys in 2015, Hardy switched sports and began an MMA career. Number 17, Johnny Manziel.
I can't hear. We can't hear you. There's too much money in my hand.
You expect someone named Johnny Football to do big things in the NFL, but this athlete's personal life and excessive amounts of partying got in the way. While he had some run-ins with the police in his college days, the quarterback was drafted by the Cleveland Browns in 2014. But Manziel's excessive behavior off the field continued. In 2015, he was pulled over for a fight in the car with his partner. While he had been drinking, the officers believed he was under the legal limit and nothing came of the incident. But subsequent dishonest behavior combined with a domestic violence charge led to Cleveland cutting him in 2016.
Overshadowing Manziel's brief pro career, his actions off the field. He spent 10 weeks in a drug and alcohol treatment facility after his rookie season.
Though the case was dropped in 2017 after Manziel agreed to counseling, Manziel hasn't played in an NFL game since.
But at the end of the day, it's to be seen. I'm still moving forward. I'm still doing the little meticulous things that I have to do on a daily basis to try and keep this right over anything else is what means the most to me.
Number 16, Roberto Alomar. When the Baltimore Orioles visited the Toronto Blue Jays in 1996, a called strike 3 on Roberto Alomar made him go absolutely ballistic. He proceeded to take his rage out on plate umpire John Hirschbeck.
Strike 3. Alomar is called out on strikes and not too happy about it.
When Alomar continued to mouth off at Hirschbeck, the latter tossed him out of the game.
Hirschbeck pointing at the Oriole dugout, and he's just thrown Alomar out of the game.
Alomar was so furious that he went right up to him and literally spit in his face. Alomar claimed that Hirschbeck had used racist remarks, and the former even made insensitive comments regarding Hirschbeck's family history. Fortunately, the two would eventually make amends, shaking hands before a game months later. They even became friends afterwards. Number 15, Mel Yuzhny. Nothing seems out of the ordinary during a tennis match between Mel Yuzhny and Nicolas Almagro in the third round of the 2008 Sony Ericsson Open in Miami. But after having lost a point, Yuzhny went berserk. Instead of striking his racket into the ground like most players often do, the Russian pro repeatedly hit himself in the head. This resulted in him sustaining a wound, causing him to bleed everywhere. He was clearly embarrassed at his self-inflicted injury as he attempted to wipe the blood away. It even required medical treatment. But somehow and some way, Yuzhny found a way to come back from the ordeal and won the match.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our match winner,
Number 14, Lamar Odom.
Quick down the other end. Oh, and a block from Odom. Banks it off the backboard.
Described as a team player with a great attitude, Odom was part of the dominant LA Lakers for part of the 2000s, and became even more well-known after his marriage to Khloe Kardashian.
From this day forward, you are husband and wife.
However, substance use affected the basketball star's career, and soon it became impossible to ignore.
And all the pain go away.
In 2013, he was arrested for impaired driving. 2 years later, things reached a boiling point. He was found in a coma in Nevada with various illicit substances in his system, resulting in several heart attacks and strokes, among other things.
Authorities originally planned to airlift him, but the county sheriff's office said that at 6'10", Odom was too tall to be transported by helicopter.
While it was a long road to recovery from this near-death experience, Odom regained his health, but admitted that his drug use cut his basketball career short prematurely.
Could you even fathom what your body had been through?
No, I mean, I really still can't. All my doctors say I'm a walking miracle.
Number 13, John McEnroe.
Mets on court 16.
You abused me. Oh, you're so... And this is the second I warned you once for unsportsmanlike conduct.
In the history of tennis, there is perhaps no one who's become more infamous or known for his outbursts on the court than John McEnroe. Perhaps Nick Kyrgios as well in his way, but that's another story.
In the game. Teamwork. Hands down. Every single time I play, he's doing some stupid every time.
McEnroe's most infamous incident occurred during his match against Tom Gullickson at Wimbledon in 1981. At one point, McEnroe disagreed with the umpire's decision on his return of a serve being ruled out. He famously yelled the now iconic line,
"You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!"
Another notable outburst occurred in 1984 at the Stockholm Open semifinal match against Anders Järryd, which saw McEnroe continue his trademark umpire bashing by calling the one officiating his game a jerk.
No mistakes whatsoever. Answer my question! The question, jerk!
He proceeded to use his racket to hit a tray of drinks among other items. He was fined $2,100. Number 12, Derek Anderson. In this day and age, coverage of sporting events have evolved so drastically that there are cameras everywhere that will catch pretty much just about everything. Case in point, this game right here. Down 18 points against the San Francisco 49ers in the fourth quarter. Arizona Cardinals quarterback Derek Anderson was shown smiling and laughing on the sideline. During a press conference after the game, he was naturally asked about it.
What Deuce and I talk about is nobody else's business.
But why was something funny when you're down 18 points in the fourth quarter?
He was initially calm, but when continuously being pestered about the details, he had had enough.
I'm just telling you right now what I do every single week. Every single week. I put my freaking heart and soul into this. I study my ass off. I don't go out there and laugh. It's not funny. It's not fun. Nothing's funny to me. I don't want to go out there and get embarrassed on Monday Night Football in front of everybody.
That's why I'm asking you what.
I'm telling you right now, we're talking. Deuce and I are talking.
He later walked off the stage. His tenure with the Cardinals was not, however, a laughing matter, and he was released after the conclusion of the 2010 season. Number 11, Metta World Peace.
And out of the corner of my eye, I see it coming.
Super slow-mo. Like it just, everybody was supposed to see it. That's how slow it went.
Near the end of a 2004 game between the Indiana Pacers and Detroit Pistons, Metta Sandiford Artest, formerly Ron Artest, fouled center Ben Wallace.
Oh, Wallace, right at Artest. This has potential to be serious if they don't get between.
Wallace didn't appreciate the gesture and let it be known by attempting to confront Artest. Players, referees, and coaches tried to defuse the situation, but it soon took a bizarre turn when Sandiford Artest decided to lie down on the scorer's table.
Went over and laid down, which is not normal. It's not normal to go lay down on the scorer's table.
Like, that's crazy too. You know, that's almost worse than the foul.
But all hell broke loose when a cup of beer was thrown directly at Sandiford Artest.
He'd have to walk past the Pacer bench to go. Now Artest has jumped over the scorer's table.
Upon being hit, he instantly ran to the stands, attacking the first person he could get his hands on. Chaos between fans and players ensued, and the event became known as the Malice at the Palace. Sandiford Artest was suspended a year, and although he later continued to excel as a defensive player and even went on to win a championship with the Los Angeles Lakers, his career would never be the same. Number 10, Jim Everett.
Jim, good to have you on the show.
Good to be here, Jim. Thank you.
Check that. Chris Everett, good to have you on the show.
During this now infamous interview, former NFL quarterback Jim Everett was constantly being called Chris by interviewer and host Jim Rome. Already having a bone to pick with Rome for bashing him and calling him by that name in public even prior to the sit-down, Everett warned him not to call him Chris. Rome did so anyway. Bad move.
Chris?
Everett was supposedly warned before the interview that Rome would call him Chris, but it didn't matter.
I regret, in hindsight, which is 2020, I regret hitting him a third time. I think that I had made my point the first two times. But I will say this. He got in my face, and he challenged me to say it again.
While Rome did show some regret for how the events transpired, Everett meanwhile was unapologetic for how he handled the situation.
Looking back on it, would you do anything differently? Or?
No, I wouldn't. I think that all I would say, looking back on it, that is if there's any other professional athlete that wants to do an interview with Mr. Rome, I would say that to be cautious.
If there's a lesson to take from this, it's that if you're ever around him, just call him by his first name and not Chris. Number 9, Ray Rice. After signing a hefty 5-year contract and winning the Super Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens, life was pretty good for this running back. Well, at least that's what it looked like on the surface. In 2014, he and his partner Janae Palmer were visiting New Jersey's Revel Casino. The two got into an intense dispute which culminated in him assaulting her, much of which was caught on tape.
Her pain is my pain is her pain. But one thing that I wanted to do today was, apologize to my wife, who I've known since high school.
But since the athlete took part in a pretrial intervention program, the case was ultimately thrown out.
Rice had been penalized already. He was charged with assault back when it happened, but avoided jail time by striking a deal. And the NFL initially suspended him for 2 games.
When he was later suspended indefinitely and released by his team, the NFL star sued the Ravens for back pay.
By early afternoon, the Ravens had terminated Rice's contract. The NFL suspending him indefinitely. The question for many tonight, what took so long?
The case was settled out of court in 2015, and Rice hasn't played in pro football since.
I went fully forward with it. I never complained or I never did anything like that. I took full responsibility for everything that I did.
Number 8, Zinedine Zidane.
Well, there's what preceded it. Materazzi just put an arm round him. There was nothing more than an exchange of a few words. Well, what was said, that was ridiculous.
During the 2006 World Cup final match, Zizou was constantly jawing with Italian player Marco Materazzi. Eventually, the trash-talking came to a head, literally. After an exchange of words, Zidane proceeds to headbutt Materazzi's chest, knocking him to the ground. Zidane was subsequently handed a red card and sent off.
And Zinedine Zidane's career ends with being sent off in the World Cup final.
Italy would go on to win the game after outscoring France during the penalty shootout, where Zidane's presence and scoring ability was clearly missed. Although Zizou still had an illustrious career, it's this very incident that will forever be etched in our memories. This was probably the last way anybody expected the French team captain Zinedine Zidane to end his career.
You can't excuse that. Zidane's career ends in disgrace.
Number 7, Lance Armstrong.
Armstrong is coming with an incredible rush, and Cloden has realised it too late. Is there any stopping Lance Armstrong in this Tour de France? And the answer is no.
He was the biggest star in cycling until the truth came out. Throughout his career and many title-winning victories, Lance Armstrong constantly denied using performance-enhancing drugs. It was hard to root against Armstrong, a survivor of testicular cancer and founder of the Livestrong Foundation, but the growing amount of evidence became too much to ignore.
UCI will ban Lance Armstrong from cycling, and UCI will strip him of his 7 Tour de France titles. Lance Armstrong has no place in cycling.
Armstrong ultimately confessed to Oprah and the rest of the world in a live interview in 2013.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
Yes or no? Was one of those banned substances EPO?
Yes.
And with that confession, the beloved athlete who was once an inspiration to so many had tarnished his image. Number 6, Michael Vick. This Atlanta Falcons quarterback was making waves and looked set to have a legendary career in the NFL.
It was like having Barry Sanders back there as your quarterback. The most dynamic, athletic quarterback that there ever was.
I'm gonna give him all this, baby. I'm gonna give him all that.
That changed drastically in 2007 when a disturbing story emerged. One of his properties in Virginia was found to have hosted dogfighting. He and some others had been leading this ring and engaging in animal mistreatment since back in 2001.
The collective picture was a very bad one. There were tremendous concerns on my part about the severity of the crime, the effect on the animals, as well as the attitude of the individuals involved in this operation.
One NFL suspension and a guilty plea later, he began serving jail time.
First, I want to apologize for all the things that I've done and that I have allowed to happen. So I will redeem myself. I have to. Thank you.
Upon release, he began playing for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2009, but his reputation never really recovered from the horrific scandal. Number 5, Aaron Hernandez.
When this day began, Aaron Hernandez was a New England Patriots tight end. Tonight, he is the defendant in a murder case.
Being an All-American when he was in Florida, people had high expectations for Hernandez when he signed with the New England Patriots. And he was on course to be one of the best tight ends around, despite being caught in various unlawful situations over the years. But then in 2013, Hernandez was taken into custody for ending Odin Lloyd's life, resulting in the Patriots cutting ties with him.
Friends say the two men would often hang out, sometimes even talk football. But prosecutors say something went wrong, shifting their bond from cordial to fatal.
In 2015, he received a life sentence without parole. Then in 2017, Hernandez stood trial for the 2012 deaths of Daniel De Abreu and Safiro Furtado, though he was deemed innocent. However, he passed away in jail just a few days later, having taken his own life.
A sad and surprising twist in a once promising young life that went horribly awry.
Number 4, Oscar Pistorius. There was a time when Pistorius was among the most famous Paralympic sprinters around.
A disabled person running with able-bodied athletes on the biggest stage in the world. Incredible.
Oscar is really big in global terms.
Superstar Oscar Pistorius!
All that changed after he attacked who he thought was a criminal in his house. The victim was actually his partner, Reva Stankamp.
He's effectively admitting he shot an innocent person. That puts you in a tough spot legally. So I've got to believe that his best hope is for a lesser charge rather than an all-out not guilty verdict.
The South African sprinter was set to spend 5 years in jail as a result. The original conviction was then overturned in favor of a more serious charge.
The accused has punished himself and will punish himself for the rest of his life far more than any court of law can punish him.
Though his prison term this time around was a year longer, prosecutors still didn't believe that was enough and appealed once more. They were successful in 2017 as Pistorius' sentence was more than doubled to 13 years and 5 months.
And Pistorius has now got the minimum sentence for murder.
Number 3, Tonya Harding. She was the first American woman to nail a triple axel in a professional ice skating competition.
Good girl! Oh, isn't that great?
Yet Harding's career took an infamous nosedive in 1994. Nancy Kerrigan, a competitor of hers, was violently struck on the knees and left injured. It was subsequently revealed that Harding's ex, Jeff Gillooly, and her bodyguard, Sean Eckert, had planned the affair, getting 2 men to carry out their plan. Still, Harding, who maintained her innocence, was controversially added to the USA team for the 1994 Winter Olympics, alongside Kerrigan. Later on, Harding admitted to obstructing justice. In addition to receiving probation time and a substantial fine, she was permanently barred from practicing her sport competitively by the U.S. Figure Skating Association.
I mean, she's moved on. I've moved on. It's part of history that will always be with us. But I'm also noted as the one and only American woman that did the first triple axel.
Number 2. Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was already seen as one of the wildest and most eccentric personalities in boxing. But nothing could prepare anyone for what was about to come during his rematch against Evander Holyfield in 1997. During the Sound and the Fury fight, Tyson didn't only bite his opponent's ear once, but twice.
It looked as if Tyson bared his teeth at one stage in the exchange.
Yes,
bit
I think he bit his ear. That's what Holyfield was in a lot of pain from that.
He was disqualified and later stated his actions were in response to Holyfield's unpenalized headbutting.
What am I to do? This is my career. I can't continue getting butted like that. I got children to raise, and this guy keeps butting me, trying to cut me and get me stopped on cut. I gotta retaliate.
Despite his accomplishments in the ring and the ferocious style which made him a household name in the sport of boxing, the ear bite would taint his career. Although he doesn't think so.
I never even think about it. Know what I think about when it does come? I think about how much money I made taking pictures of fighting somebody's ear. That it supersedes the $3 million that I lost.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. O.J. Simpson. The world watched as Simpson ran away from the police in a Ford Bronco and was then acquitted of the slaying of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman in 1994.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187.
Yet in 1997, he found himself losing a civil case and was deemed responsible for their passing, with the combined penalty being $33.5 million. His acting and broadcasting career were effectively over at this point. And after all that, you might expect him to keep a low profile, but he didn't.
Yes, Your Honor, I stand before you today sorry, somewhat confused. I feel apologetic to the people of the state of Nevada.
In 2008, he was in court for his role in a Las Vegas robbery and was handed a 33-year prison sentence, being granted parole in 2017. He's been free since 2021, though his name remains synonymous with scandal.
And now state officials in Nevada have granted Simpson a discharge from his parole 2 months early, citing good behavior. His lawyer saying Mr. Simpson is a completely free man now, but not disclosing OJ's future plans.
He passed away due to prostate cancer in April of 2024. Did we miss any infamous athletes who ruined their own careers? Let us know in the comments.
This double murder that Hernandez is now indicted for happened in July of 2012. About a month later, he signed a 5-year, $40 million contract with the Patriots.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.